What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be working on this 2004 Nissan Infiniti fx35. We're going to be doing just some minor tune-ups to it. I'm going to be doing coolant top off, the coolant reservoir. I'm going to be changing all the spark plugs. Also, I'm going to be doing an oil change. So let's just jump right into it and get her done. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is remove this upper cover. This is the intake cover, engine cover. We're gonna remove this with these 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna remove that, take it off. So getting to the spark plugs can be a little tricky. If you notice all the way down in there, you gotta kind of get your hands underneath the intake manifold. Sometimes it's easier to just remove the intake manifold so you can get your hands in there. But I'm just gonna be removing this bolt right here to put the wire harness off to the side, as well as these other clips, just so I could get my fingers to get the ignition coils up. So let's just remove each ignition coil. This is 1 of them, it's 2 of them, that's 3. So let's do that. Okay, so to remove this harness, you're gonna have to remove some bolts, this ground wire from the harness, a bolt from the intake manifold, all of which mount the actual harness. You're also gonna have to remove the air box, or at least to the throttle body side. So I'm just gonna pretty much remove this bolt here, then I'll remove this bolt here, this tube, I'm gonna lose that hose. That way I can gain access to this side of the cylinder, because it is a V6. So let's just go on ahead and do that. So you can see now that we got the factory air box partially removed, we can gain more access to those ignition coils. 1, 2, and 3. So let's just go ahead and continue getting the harness out of the way so that we can have better access. So as you can see, we got it removed to where we got it loose enough where we could gain access. So now I'm just gonna move to the other side. The other side is a little bit tricky, a little bit difficult, because the fasteners are kind of set up a way where it's a little bit more harder to get to. So if you pay attention to down in here specifically, it's a little bit harder to get the harness up, because the fasteners are tucked underneath the actual harness and it's plugged into the ignition coils. But nonetheless, it's possible to get it done that way. So at this point, we got the harness partially loose from all the fasteners. Now we're gonna start by disconnecting these ignition coils harness connectors. So let's just do that. Now we got all the ignition coil harness wires loose and free. We're gonna remove this hose right here, because we won't be able to pull the ignition coil out with this hose sitting right here. It seems to be some kind of vacuum hose, so be careful not to break it or damage the actual hose itself, because it looks like it is a hard line. So actually it's yeah. I'll just try to work it off. Or a good trick to follow is to just get like a circular pliers and just put the circular pliers all around it, kind of see if you can twist. If you can twist the actual hose. So here's the circular pliers right here. So I'm just gonna try to twist and put it on the hose like that. Lock it down. Twist it just so I can break it free from any type of buildup. And then just give it a tug. Just like that. Should come on. So as you can see, oh yeah, and it's dry and brittle. So it did break. So I'm probably just gonna end up putting like a vacuum line on here or something, or probably just putting a whole new hose. And this was pretty dry and brittle. Oh yeah, look, I'm just able to break it. So I'm probably just gonna end up putting a hose right there. But yeah, like I said, this car hasn't been serviced in a while, so stuff like that's gonna happen. I'm just gonna end up putting a hose from here to here and making my own actual line, because you need some form of reference anyway, so just be mindful of that. Good thing I got some hose laying around, so I can just go ahead and literally scoot this off here and make my own hose. Actually, maybe put a braided line or something, but this hose was dry and brittle, as you can see, so I'll just crack in. Like, you shouldn't be able to snap a hose like this. Like, look. Oh man. You get the idea. It's so hard. It should have some flex in it. There's no flex. There's no. Yeah, it's just dry and pretty much no good. Yeah, look at that. I was able to snap that. Shouldn't crack. The hose should have flex, and yeah, so this stuff is junk. Luckily, I have hose laying around, so we're gonna get that done. Anyway, let's just proceed to removing the ignition coils. Now you can see where we have the boots removed. It's a good time to go ahead and actually, the ignition coil removed. It's a good time to go ahead and check the actual boots of the ignition coil to make sure everything is looking fine and in tip-top shape. And this ignition coil doesn't look too bad. Make sure there's no cracks in and around the boot itself, both on the base and where it meets the actual spark plug. So this one looks good. Look at this one. This one looks good. No cracks, no oil on the boot. So I could tell that though this engine has quite a bit of miles, it's doing quite well for itself, at least on this bank. Here's another boot. No cracks, no distortion. Everything looks good here. So let's just go ahead and remove the spark plugs. Okay, now we got the spark plugs out. It's a good time to actually inspect the spark plugs. So if you can see this one, how it's a lot of it wet. That just tells me that there's a lot of spark plug fouling going on, or oil fouling, where the oil is actually being able to come pass through the actual compression rings and reach the bottom of the spark plug. Now that just tells me that the engine has seen quite a bit of miles and it's got a little bit of wear on it as far as the cylinder walls and the cylinders are concerned. And so it's having a little bit of blow by, which is not too bad given the miles on the vehicle. Now, this also can indicate quite a numerous number of things, but for the most part, it's not something that I'd worry about, given in an engine like this that has quite a few miles on it. So, point to note, if it was a newer car and this was you know, occurring, then you'd want to take more closer attention to what's going on internally on the engine. But let's just go ahead and put some new spark plugs in it and get that going. All right, so the spark plugs that I'm going to be using today are the NGK Iridium IX, and these are a little bit on the performance side. They're like 15 bucks a piece, so you have 6 of them, so it's probably going to run you about 90 bucks. But all in all fairness, it's actually worth it in delivering a good spark to the engine. Given the mild situation, it's not a bad idea to give it a little bit more strength where you can. So this would be a cheap kind of additive to help preserve the engine a little bit longer and keep it running a lot more efficiently. So when you want to install these spark plugs, you want to also make sure you're putting some anti-seize on them. And I use Permatech, most of Permatech products. I'm not sponsored by Permatech, but I love their stuff, so shout out Permatech one time. Anyway, let's just dab this up on the threaded portion off the actual spark plug, and then just insert them real quick. All right, so now that we got these spark plugs installed, I want you to pay attention to actually one other thing. When you're putting them in, make sure that you put them in hand tight with the extension of the socket, and go slowly so you can feel the torque on the actual threads. You don't want to strip the threads on these spark plugs. If you strip them, it will be a problem. You will break them, and you would have to remove the cylinder head, and that's a whole other process. Now, just take measure and caution to tighten slightly and just feel it. Go as slowly as you can. It will save you a lot down the road. At this point, the installation is pretty much self-explanatory in reverse as what we did to get to this point. So now we're just gonna reinstall the ignition coils, put the fasteners back on, then we're gonna do the exact same thing we did on this side to that side, reassemble the harness, and that's that. So if you like my videos, please hit the like button, subscribe. It really helps me out a whole lot. And as always, stay greasy. You know the vibe. Katana Garage, we out. Yeah.